Go for it.
We look good. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, welcome to your first meeting, and thank you for being a longtime member and joining in with us today. So everybody here, this will be kind of a good meeting for you, Art, just to kind of see really just simply what we do, minus the speaking and educational events that we have. Typically, you know, say on average, sometimes we'll do something every month, sometimes we'll do something every other month. It just really depends on availability of speakers and arranging things like that. But basically the COVID time is kind of like all of the stuff that we still do in the background. So there's there's 8 of you here, but this will be recorded, so more people will be able to see it. I'm going to do just a quick rundown of our financial report this year. For members, always remember that these are, if you have specific questions about any of our regular bills or any of the programs or projects that we have going on at any given time, please always feel free to email us at fact@freethinkersact.org. That email address is on our website. It's on all of our social media pages. We have detailed financials. So if you're ever confused about how something is working out, say like, for example, with the Secular Student Alliance scholarship, well, how are we able to, you know, sponsor three scholarships? You know, we can share that with you, and we have years of that going back. So financials are always available, and questions can be answered at any given time. So let me just pull it up. Our beginning balance as of, and the reason I'm doing the financial report right now, also Robert Davidson, our treasurer, has been out of town, so I just put together a quick, luckily it's been COVID all year, so it was really easy to put it together an end of year financial report. So January 1 of 2020, our balance was $7,472.72. There was $4,710.16 in Broadway Bank and $2,762.56 in PayPal. Our ending balance is $7,350.03. And our bank account, we've got $4,227.74, and in PayPal we have $3,122.29. So basically the big thing that you need to know about those numbers is those are our account balances. That does not account for any special projects that we have set money aside for. For example, the big one that you need to know when you're looking at, say, a $7,000 balance is that about 2 years ago, when we found out that Freedom from Religion Foundation was going to have their convention here this year, we got a lot of support. A lot of people in San Antonio have been wanting billboards for a very long time. So the idea was, we approved a little bit in the budget. Somewhere, I'm actually looking for that number. I think if I remember, my memory serves me, it was somewhere between $300 and $500. But we had some very generous anonymous donors that said, you know what, let's do this billboard campaign. You know, let's make it for 2020 when FFRF is going to be here. So that there's a total of $1,918.02 that are donation specific out of that $7,350 that is just going towards a billboard campaign. So as you know, the FFRF convention was canceled this year. It is not on their website yet. However, I have received a message that FFRF has approved San Antonio for the 2022 docket. Different speakers, we're not going to have the same speakers. Most of them are speaking hopefully next year for 2021, so it'll be a whole different lineup of speakers. But they are expected to be here in 2022. So that $1,918, that stays earmarked for any billboard campaign. So our basically general fund is $5,432.01. And our beginning, you know, that $1,900 for the billboard campaign, that's kind of been set aside, even that got set aside last year. So that was already included in our beginning budget as well this year. So far as any other expenses, Meetup is the big one. It's $106.36. It went up again this year every 6 months. So it's about $212 every year for Meetup. Our PO box is $76. We do still get quite a bit of snail mail. And then our other big outgoing expense, I wouldn't call it expense, it's actually a charitable donation. Earlier in the year, we started looking into sponsoring a Secular Student Alliance scholarship. Mm-hmm. And so we thought we'd set some money aside and then also try to get donations and do, for the first time, sponsor one $1,000 scholarship. We had one anonymous donor come forward and say, hey, you know what? I'd really like to do that. So I'll match dollar for dollar. So we had $500 from FACT. And then we had this $500 anonymous donation. So while, fast forward, while the scholarship selection process is going on, we get another donor that comes in and says, hey, you know what? I'd really like to sponsor a scholarship too. So between our funds, the $500 and two very generous anonymous donors, 3 scholarships were sponsored in the name of FACT. 3 $1,000 scholarships to secular students that are enrolled here in Texas. You can read about that in the emails. The website will get updated.
We're going to put out a press release.
Yes, and we're trying to get a press release out about that. Yeah.
Yes, as Katie mentioned earlier, we'll be doing a second meeting just early in the new year that will focus on those recipients, you know, if they're comfortable doing so, coming on to share a bit about themselves, them as recipients. You know, this is the first time that FACT has done something like this in recent memory, and so it was a pretty awesome deal to be a part of, to actually help people. It's been a while since I've been in the school side. I remember, how nerve-wracking that was, and monies and books and everything else, and books cost $100 bajillion. So it really goes a long way, and I'm hoping that it's something that FACT will be able to do as we proceed in the future. To a part of our mission is that education component of our mission on that side, and so to help directly in that is a pretty awesome thing.
Yeah, it's definitely something that we'd love to continue to do moving forward. So you may see we're working on setting up for some reason, our Facebook fundraising. I know we've done a fundraiser before, but somehow, I don't know if they got more strict, or if our credentials just needed to be renewed. So we're in the process of renewing our credentials. And so once we have that set up, you may see some different fundraisers coming up next year. So really, that's our budget for the year. Our monthly expenses total about, let's see, this is Bluehost and Zoom. Our monthly expenses total under $30. It's like $25.99 for our website and for Zoom. You know, PayPal and Square only charge fees when you're actually using those, you know, actually making transactions. And so since there hasn't been a whole lot of transaction this year, those fees just have been very small. Does anybody have anybody that's on live, does anybody have any questions about our budget? Okay. Well, moving right along.
One more time, where do you contribute to freethinkers@.org?
It's sorry, did you say where do you contribute?
Yes.
So our web address is Freethinkers Act. Phil is typing it in right now.
Okay.
And then
got it.
do you want to type in the email
Thank you.
too?
Yes.
And he's typing in the email right now as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
You are so welcome. Our front page of the website hasn't been updated. You'll see some stuff from the SSA scholarship, but we'll be updating that here pretty soon. Okay. So one other, I'm gonna let's see. Before I get into the election, because Phil has a demo that we'll play for you. Before we get into the election, we were talking at the last board meeting, and there's gonna, you know, we're gonna have to look at our budget at the beginning, you know, over the next, say, you know, couple of weeks and finish our end of year finance report. But times are tough, and as we were discussing just earlier, you know, the homeless community is going to be ever growing exponentially. And Phil does great work, has some assistants here in San Antonio, but does some fantastic work up in Austin with Austin Helping the Homeless. We're discussing really trying to give back to our local homeless community and what FACT can do. Phil, I'll let you kind of talk about like what you did in Austin with what were the things that we're looking at. And, you know, what I'm asking for is, you know, we obviously, like I said, there's some budget things, but once Phil kind of talks about what we want to do, type up, you know, make a little comment in the comment group section. Let us know what you think about this idea.
So one of the big things that we're looking. Julie, Julie, did you want to say something or?
No, I just got a notification. I'll turn my.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
So, you know, up in Austin, so I run the Austin Atheists Helping the Homeless group up there. And, you know, part of that, you know, when you see, as you see down here in San Antonio, there's so many people that are unhoused that are having to, you know, deal with the elements directly, you know, as even if they're getting under bridges, you still have, you know, the biting cold as the wind whips through and everything else. And so one of the things that, you know, I was kind of thinking of in the last board meeting, as we talked about it, was trying to go out and get sleeping bags for those. Like there's no way that we can serve the entire, you know, population of those that are experiencing homelessness in general. But, you know, Haven for Hope downtown takes care of hundreds of people, you know, keeping them in those house environments. The Courtyard, which is kind of the precursor to getting into the Haven for Hope program, also helps with heaters, with blankets, stuff like that for a certain amount of people. But that still leaves, even with those two programs going, there's still a collection of folks, especially around the Houston and Frio streets. This is in downtown San Antonio, right by the Via bus station. If people are familiar with that area, by the Frio County, the Bexar County Appraisal District, that area, if you're familiar with that side of downtown. But there'll be a lot of people on the sides of buildings, people just under the bridge, like in the public parking area, that are just in an unhoused state trying to keep warm, keep their possessions together and everything. And so one of the ideas was to get sleeping bags for a set amount of people, depending on what our budget looks like. In addition to that, another big issue that folks have out there on the streets is being able to get to their caseworkers, being able to get to the hospital, being able to get back and forth if they actually do have a job, to be able to get back and forth between the courtyard and that job and stuff like that. There's a lot of problems that you may not think about that having no transportation complicates. And when people are having to walk these long distances in order to get places. So the other part of that was sponsoring bus passes for, once again, a certain amount of folks that are out there on the street. So to alleviate that one artificial barrier that folks have in order to get from place to place, whether it be to their caseworkers to try to work on their housing situation, because there's a waiting list and that takes time, and you need to make those appointments if you're going to continue that process. So it's an unfortunate fact of the matter, and there's no really getting around that. And so the idea was to say, okay, we're going to go out there, not too many of us, but to distribute sleeping bags and bus passes to folks out there on the street to get aid directly into that. In addition to that, there may be some other things, maybe some food items, some toiletry items, stuff like that, that may go along with it. That would be something extra. But the main thing was trying to make sure people can keep warm out there when it's cold like this. Right now it's kind of warmish outside, the sun is out, but when the sun goes down 30, 40 some odd degrees, and it's one thing to think about that, but when you imagine staying in that environment for the entire night, like I always use the analogy of, if you're getting out of a car and it's cold outside, you feel that instant hit of cold, and it's like, whoo.
Pumping gas in your car when it's cold and rainy, think about that, and then being in that environment,
right? And that
not having shelter or transportation to get to a job that may provide you with shelter. So
right, the idea that when you like pump your gas or something, you have an expectation, even though you're cold now, your expectation is, after I pump this gas, I'm going to be back in my car. I will have my heat back on. I'm heading to my destination and everything else. That is your expectation when that cold hits you in the face. But the counter of that is to say, what if your expectation is that the exact way you feel right then is the same way you're going to feel for the entire rest of the night? The entire time, this is the way it's going to feel. And so that's kind of where my mind was focused on this, in presenting this to the rest of the board. And so, if some of y'all may have some ideas about it, or have some opinions on it, feel free to put them in the chat or something like that. We'd love to hear your input on that side. But it's not a whole lot, but it is something that's within our means to do, that doesn't cost a whole lot, that can make a large difference in the lives directly with our friends and neighbors in our community here in San Antonio.
yeah, so leave us a comment or email us and let us know, or those of you that are on now, please feel free to share your thoughts on that idea. I think just with everything going on, with the pandemic, there's only so much that we can do when we give back to our community. But, I think what we're going to need a lot of what we need a lot of now, and what is going to be an even greater need in the months to come, is compassion and supporting one another, because there's just these issues that were already systemic problems before are, again, growing exponentially. You know, sure, landlords can't evict right now, but, you know, once those, you know, and it doesn't matter, you know, okay, well, you don't have to, you know, we'll give you 3 months, you don't have to pay your mortgage, but at the end of that 3 months, not only is that fourth payment due, but all those 3 payments are due, you know, and you know, at some point, landlords are going to get the okay to evict again. And so I would, you know, like to see a humanistic kind of focus, say, definitely going into 2021.
But I think something like paying rent for people is kind of out of our league. You know,
Right.
I definitely agree with the you know, the sleeping bags and you know, maybe blankets or whatever, but and other things that we've done before. You know, I did help with that on one occasion, and so you know, all that stuff. You know, we can handle that definitely.
So that might be, you know, once we finish, you know, get our finals for the end of the year and start looking at our budget into the next year, you know, we'll take all of your, you know, kind of comments and probably, you know, at our next streaming event, maybe talk about it a little bit more and present an actual plan.
Yeah.
I don't know that I really, does anybody have any questions? I mean, like I said, it was going to be pretty short because of the pandemic. Liam is still doing his book discussion over Zoom. So there's that.
No, we're done for the year.
Huh?
We had our last one a couple weeks ago, and
Oh.
I was not feeling well that day, unfortunately, and had to bow out of that one. But I heard it was a great discussion, and I might do it again. Enlightenment Now is a huge book. We could do another one on it.
Well, like I know there's not one scheduled now, but maybe, you know, upcoming. We'll still have.
Well, yeah,
books.
we'll get going in late January, early February.
Oh yes, nothing right away. Yeah.
For sure. And those information, like when those happen, they should be posted on the meetup pages, so you should be able to get that information.
Meetup, Facebook.
Oh, yeah, I put it everywhere.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's pretty much it. So we're gonna go ahead and the election, the 2020 election, all dues paying members should have received an email with instructions. If you got the link to this meeting from your email, it is that same email. We are using Election Buddy this year since we cannot be in person and vote. So we're going to play you a quick demo. And then if you have any questions, we'll have time to answer those.
Okay.
Okay.
So let me go ahead and share my screen here. This one in particular for sound and video. Might mute myself just so it's not echoing back, and we can minimize that a little bit. But so I'll do that now, and I'll go ahead and play this short video. You should be able to hear it, and if not, just ping me in the chat if anyone can't hear it.
Election Buddy election voting is easy for voters. Voters receive election notice by email, SMS, postcards, letters with paper ballots, or from your own systems. Then, voters use their notice to access the ballot with their voter key. It's randomly generated to ensure integrity. Next, voters view the ballot and make their choices. A ballot can have multiple positions or questions. The first is to select a president from multiple candidates. Voters can view candidate information, including pictures and profiles. As an option, you can allow voters to abstain. Next is a board position with multiple winners. Election Buddy can optionally present candidates randomly to each voter to eliminate the ballot order effect. And the last is a yes/no vote to approve a bylaw amendment. You can highlight the text edits and even allow voters to add comments. This ballot type also works great for budgets, fees, or any approvals. Then voters verify their choices and submit. Simple and easy voting. And results are sent to voters automatically or manually, or shared on your meeting screen. It's up to you. Election Buddy also supports more complex votes using features such as voter weighting, so votes can mirror ownership, great for condominium associations or credit union votes. And voter groups, great for colleges, so freshmen can vote on their class representative, but seniors can't, while everyone can vote on the school president. And multiple voting systems including ranked ballots, cumulative voting, and scored voting to approve members or conduct high-integrity Likert scale surveys. And that's how Election Buddy makes it easy to conduct elections. Election Buddy is simple to set up.
Okay, that's essentially the gist of it right there. I'll go ahead and stop sharing on that. So as you see in here, everyone will get the email that goes out. And so when you get that email, it'll say, vote now. Here's your link to go do so. Once you do it once, you won't be able to vote again, of course, that type of thing. So, and it's per email, so it's only for you. You fill it out, and then that's all she wrote. Once everything is done, we'll have another meeting in January, the same meeting as we're talking about the recipients of our SSA-sponsored scholarships. It'll be included within that meeting as well to go over the results of those elections so that everybody is aware of what's going on and stuff like that. But it's fairly straightforward. You get the email, you pick the link, make your selections, and then verify that it's submitted, and then you're done. So that's how it's going to work for this year, which is very different than our normal process of meeting together at a location and doing the ballot thing and everything else. So
but we ran a test. Were you logged in to Election Buddy by chance?
I wasn't. I don't think so.
That's okay. So we did run a test election to see just kind of how things work. I made it kind of corny, but it's very neat the way that it works. You'll get an email with your ballot that should come out. You should get that sometime tomorrow. For the board elections, because we stagger positions every other year, you'll have the position, the candidates, you'll select your candidate or abstain. Any information about the candidate, you'll just click the little information link. At the end of it, you'll get to review it, confirm it, and then you'll get a confirmation email with a code specific to you. And that is to ensure that nobody casts your ballot for you. And so important, I sent special emails to people who have family memberships. So if you have a family membership, you'll need to check your email and email us if you have more than one voting member. If you only need the one ballot and the email address we have on file is good to go, then you don't need any action. But let's say it's a couple, like my husband and I need to put in his email so that he can get his ballot. But everybody who has a family membership should have received that email already.
Go over the example.
Yes. Oh, so here's our example. And I had people, I just had 5 random people vote randomly, and I let my daughter and her friend vote for me. So I was up against the fainting goats. and I won by a whopping 1 vote.
You know, just eked out that win there.
That is
Yeah,
clearly election fraud.
I thought for sure I was gonna lose.
Right. So this is kind of how they, how it would look once the results are done, depending on what's going on there. So it's fairly straightforward, and then we'll tally everything after the time frame for elections. People will have, I think it's 1 week.
We've got 10 days.
10 days.
You'll have 10 days to cast your ballot. And I mean, it's pretty straightforward, but it's a really easy system. It's a secret ballot. So when you look at the results, I can see, we're able to visualize out of the members who's voted. So if we see that somebody hasn't voted, we can try to contact them in another way. Say, hey, reminder, it's election time. Don't forget to cast your ballot. And that way, we may have a wrong email. We've sent out a few emails now trying to confirm everybody. But there's a chance there may be 1 or 2 that get lost. So if you have not received one of the dues paying members specific emails, please email us. Again, our email is in the group chat thread. Email us and let us know if you have a question about whether you're a current 2020 dues paying member. Ballots. Okay, so timeline. Ballots will go out tomorrow, December 20th. And sorry.
Hey, Katie?
Yes.
Is the nomination period closed at this point?
Yes, nominations for the announcement, nominations closed at midnight last night.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna schedule the ballots today. So should we get one today, it should be easy to add in. But officially nominations have closed so that we can actually have an accurate ballot, and that way all of our voters have information on the candidates they're voting for. We won't have write-ins because we specifically had a nomination period, but you can abstain. You always have that available. And of course, since it's not a live meeting, so no nominations from the floor, obviously. So, and the election will close. You can vote all the way. You have through December, that's a Tuesday, December 29th is the deadline to cast your ballot. So starting tomorrow through December 29th. All right. Does anybody have any questions about the election? Did everybody on here receive an email? Art, have you received an email?
No, I don't think I paid dues this past year. I'm gonna wait till next year, I guess. There's only a little bit left. I don't know.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. And then I think everybody else should have their email. Everybody that's on here should have their email already. So again, if you have any questions, please feel free to email us or send us a message on any of our social media outlets.
Katie, I don't think I've gotten one. When did you send it?
So there's been a total of 2 emails. Let's see. So you didn't, how did you access this meeting? From your email?
No, I went to Meetup and used the link there.
Huh.
Also, I don't know that my husband has received one because he hadn't said anything about it.
So when we get off here, Julie, I will look at your contact information because I know the email went. I know you were on the list. I saw you on the list because I expected to get a response with George's email. So I will get with you after this meeting and we will just I'll double check and make sure that there wasn't a typo. But you've been getting the newsletters, correct? Has everybody been getting the newsletters this year?
Yeah, I get it.
Okay, because we've been sending those out to everybody, whether you're this year, we've just kind of, it's just something that we've been doing is just kind of sending them out to everybody to keep everybody connected a little bit.
I don't think I've gotten a newsletter in like maybe a couple of months.
Right. Okay. So there hadn't been one in a couple of months, just because we had I think the last one that went out was just before the Secular Student Alliance scholarship, and I just put out the last one was from me. So the last few months, no, I don't. There hasn't been any. There hasn't been a couple of them.
Yeah, so the election information emails, you could check your emails, the ones that you would expect to receive them. It was one on December 10th at around 3:30 p.m. And there was another on December 16th at about 1:20 in the afternoon. And so you can check your emails for those, because if those emails are there, then that should be the same email that Election Buddy already has in the system. And that's the one that'll go out. If you're not seeing those on the 10th and the 16th, then have to take a look.
And the ballot, you won't see the ballot until tomorrow. The ballot will get scheduled. That will go out. That'll be automated tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
So you won't see a ballot today. You won't see a ballot until after midnight tonight. But Julie, like I said, I will get with you personally afterwards. And as long as everybody else, with the exception of Art, as long as you guys have been have seen the email for this meeting and have been getting newsletters throughout the year periodically, you all should be good to go. Because I've personally seen your emails on the list.
I do have an email dated the 16th.
And that was the it should have been the subject of election and fact election and end of year meeting. Like subject line starts with important.
Oh yeah, confirm email. Confirm.
Okay. Well, if you got that one, at least that email is correct. But yeah, so the husband's email, Julie's husband, that's.
You can just hit reply to that email and send us George's email. That's all. Okay. That's all you have to do.
Yep.
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you.
Okay. Does anybody else have any other questions?
Y'all want to hear a joke?
Sure.
Does anybody in a Zoom meeting ever really want to answer that question? Sure.
Never gonna give you up, never gonna let you down.